One line blues, yeah, I got some of those. You hear me, Jamie?
Easy. No, that's not me. I like a waste man, that's not me. Sex any girl, no, that's not me. Lips any girl, no, that's not me. Yeah, I used to wear Gucci, I put it all in the windows, that's not me. True, I used to look like you, but just like a wrist, no, that's not me. Yeah, it's the return of the Mac. I'm still alive, just like Tupac. Girls in the front row, girls in the back. Spit one lyric, everybody's like bruh. Flashback to the gold nights in the jack. Now I'm in a new whip, counting a big stack. Yellow gold chain and the diamonds of me. Sex any girl, no, that's not me. Lips any girl, no, that's not me. 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 That's not me.
Yo, what is going on, guys? How y'all doing? It is Wednesday today. Happy to be here. It is time for some feedback. Today is a lovely day. We have some submissions in here from our paid members. We're going to be covering those first. If you're new here, just make sure you submit. If you pay for the Patreon, you get to skip the line and get your track reviewed first. So, with that being said, let's get started. If I can get my thing figured out, because it always doesn't work. There we go. Cool. All right. And you can type in exclamation point submit or Patreon or Discord if you want to join any of those communities. I am Agony. I am Dubstep Man. Let's get started. Also, for those curious, that showcase was the Khmer one. I liked it, so I thought it was a pretty cool showcase. I'm gonna be releasing a showcase at some point. It's getting a little late, but I'm getting around to it. I'm doing a lot of work. So, yeah, we got Cryptid first, and I believe this is like a new member. So welcome, Cryptid. Everybody say welcome. Let's get this going. And if you are curious how I do things, I will write down notes. I have notes from my last stream that I left on here accidentally. But I write down notes for you, just so you can like look at some key points. You can screenshot the notes or whatever. Just to make it simpler for you to glance at. So it'll be on the right side. And I'll give it a full listen through at first, and then after I listen to the whole thing, then I will kind of go into more detail, and we'll pause and go through different moments. But let's hear what you got. Yo, what's up, Avada? Hope you're doing well. Been killing it lately. What's up, Kaisel? Oh, I like the choir. Sick. Nice. I enjoyed that. That was pretty up to par. But I have quite a bit of notes that I think could make it a lot better. I think just general thoughts on this entire thing. The sound design was pretty good. I think the sound design was interesting. It didn't bother me really at all. I thought all the tones were really cool and they sounded pretty unique. I liked the squishy sounding bass the most, I think, because it was It just sounded nice. I don't know. But I think your sound design approach, they are all cool sounds individually, but all together as like a cohesive song, I think they kind of struggled with each other. Because one bass tone would be really like the squashy one, right? It was really squishy. It sounds squelchy and like a lot of mid tones. And then the other ones would be really scooped and just really distorted. And I feel like swapping between those two types of styles of basses, where it's really distorted and really, really not distorted, like pretty squashed, squishy kind of sound, it's too much of a contrast between those two, and it kind of disrupts the flow a bit. But those are my main notes. I think the mixing, though, is probably the thing that held it back the most, if I'm being honest. The mixing in general is just like the hardest thing to master, so it happens. But for this song, I'll go through the notes. Intro is pretty okay. It's kind of the intros where it's just kind of like a pad, and you know, in this one you have like some kind of like drum happening, so it's a little bit more interesting. But still, like these kinds of intros, I wish would have more in them, you know, like not just noise. I feel like it would just make it more interesting. And this is my first critique, is that there's no actual buildup. You can get away with not having a buildup, technically, I guess, but the whole point of a buildup is to bring up some tension, some contrast from quiet to loud, or to build up suspense energy in some way. Because the kick kind of comes out of nowhere. You're expecting like it to grow a bit more, but it just starts playing the drop, and thankfully you didn't like make it just super sudden. You have a fake out to some extent, so it kind of does prepare you a little bit, but I think you could definitely build up the energy before a lot, and just, you know, then the release of the drop hitting you at once, you know, I feel like that could be way more intense. The fake out does a little bit of justice for that, but the drop really could hit way, way harder if you had a proper buildup. And it could be just like the kick getting faster, the snare getting faster, whatever it could be. It doesn't have to be that. It has to be some kind of element that gets faster, more intense, something like that. And then there's the opposite, which is like adding contrast. But that, I think it's just generally harder to get done pretty well. And I think your sound design is pretty cool in this one. I kind of admire that you didn't have like a really bright bass. Like it sounds like it's pretty low pass, I guess, if that's like the term you could use. But it sounds unique in that way, so I appreciate that. But your low end is really, really weak. The low end, I've talked to more and more producers about like them teaching people. Like I talked to producers who teach other dubstep artists, and they say that people struggle with low end a lot. So it's not just people in my circle, it's like a really broad thing that low end's really hard to get down. Your low end is super duper weak. I don't know why that would be, because usually people like to slam it, but still, slamming your low end does have issues in it of itself. The goal you want is a clean low end where it doesn't sound like it's being pushed hard. That meaning like it's not being rolled off or hard clipped, because it doesn't sound that pleasing. There's a whole thing I can get into that with like how it sounds like it's being pushed too hard. It's just a certain sound that comes from it that could show, but you don't want to sound pushed, basically. So in this one, It sounds like the sub itself, you're like distorting really hard. You have a lot of clippers on it or something, a lot of saturation. And so when that already really distorted sub hits the mix, um, you're like pushing an already really loud element into the mix, and it's harder for it to compete because when you push the sub, then you're introducing like low mids and some mids in there actually. And so it just becomes harder to mix. I think as a rule of thumb, you should never really push your sub that hard. Your sub should kind of just sit in the low ends, not really doing much. And then the saturation comes with the processing with basses. The technique I use a lot is if I have a dedicated sub, which sometimes I simply don't because the way I work with sound design. But if I have a dedicated sub, I'm going to mix them all into a bus, and they're going to largely be unprocessed. Like maybe the bass tone, like the actual top end of the bass, I'll put like some effects, some OTT whatever on it to make it hit a bit more and be wider or whatever. But ultimately they go down into a bus, and then that is where I kind of glue them together. Probably heard the term of like gluing basses together. And that can be anything from like adding very subtle saturation to it, adding some minor EQ afterwards or something, even like adding disperser or other effects, trying to make it sound like it's one uniform tone basically. But the trick of like bringing those together into a bus and then distorting them together very slightly, like the sub and the top end, I think works so incredibly well, given that you're like high passing the bass tone before it goes into the bus. I think that works the best, and especially with a clean sub, not one that has a lot of harmonics or distorted, just a simple sine wave going into a bus. As far as like sub stuff goes, dude, there's just more misinformation about like how to use a sub than how to use it correctly, because everybody has their ways of making things seem like they're louder. But most of the time you're probably overthinking mixing your sub. It's funny because I used to have way too loud low end on my songs. Yeah, that's kind of the thing, is like you're kind of taught to push your sub really, really hard. At least when I first started music, a lot of people like, gosh, I started making music at like the worst time because there were like so many newbies that didn't know actually how to make music, and like 10 years later, none of those people have a career. Absolutely zero. None of those people have a career in music. They fell off. They're probably working in something not music related. Like I've never seen them. But the ones who do have good advice are still around. I kind of did that thing where I pushed my sub too hard, and they were like, "Yeah, put Camel Crusher on your sub bass. Yeah, put Camel Crusher. Oh, and also put OTT and Hyperdimension on your bass group. Yeah, do that. And always high pass at 20 hertz. You don't want any of the low end in there because it'll ruin your sub." There's so much bad information out there. Yeah. Also, I think you're like the top members, so you can look up stuff on my Patreon. I think I should dive into like sub specifically because it's such a common issue now. I think I'll do that. Yeah, I'll make a little sub tutorial. So I'll make that in like the next few days. Rocket powered sound. Oh my goodness. I mean, he's like a nice guy. But doesn't he does like nofap videos now, right? He like talks about nofap and how it changed his life or something. I think he still does some stuff now and then. I think he's like only good at making sounds in Serum, and that's it. Like anything music wise, I don't think he has anything on. He's just a Serum guy. Okay. The low end is weak, the drum sound squash. Your drums, yeah. Your drums sound like they're loud, but they aren't hitting. I don't know exactly why. That's the thing. I was like kind of confused. It sounds like maybe the samples you're using are really squashed. Like you know the sound you have when you have a really distorted kick and you like turn it down in the mix, and the distorted really intense kick is like quieter than other things. That's what it sounds like here. Like your kick isn't actually distorting from being too loud in the master or like being clipped really loud. It sounds like it was already clipped really loud and you're like trying to mix for that. My advice for that, maybe pick better drums. If you are doing the distorting yourself, like you're driving everything, probably don't do that, just because it ruins the dynamics of the mix, and it kind of squashes the low end too much. Like you want the low end to be clean, pretty much for the exact same reason I mentioned about the sub. But like, just find other drums. That's like the producer's lifestyles, swapping through drum samples. He turned into motivational vids, and now that he is married to a billionaire's daughter, he stopped existing on social media. Well, I mean, wouldn't that be all of us? Like, if we got married to someone rich, we would just throw our hands up and chill for the rest of our life. I think a lot of people would do that. Hey man, I guess that means that his no fap videos work. Like, oh my goodness. Okay, my other thing was the weird drum fill. Yeah, that drum fill there is weird. And I think he did at the end here. It sounds like a forced drum fill. Like the drum fill is happening. It could sound cool, but nothing is changing. Like your bass is just still playing the same pattern. Your synths are still playing the same pattern. Everything is the same. It's just your drums are like boo boo cats cats yeah boo cats. You need to shape it more around what the drums are doing. Because it just sounds like the drums are doing their own thing. It sounds kind of just random. I think you could simplify it too. Like this fill is just too complex for what you really need. Maybe just do like dotted note fills, something like that. I think that would be better. I like the choir. This part sounds really sick. I like the way you mixed it. It just hits hard. And the last thing to talk about are the bass tones. So the bass tones are inconsistent. I mentioned it a little bit already, but you can't have a bass tone be really distorted sounding, squashed with the low end, and then have another bass tone that's really clean and airy. You can't have those two right next to each other occupying like the same bar. There should be a transition in between those types of styles, and that should be presented in a lot of other things if you do that. I'm not going to tell you to do that. Instead, I'm going to suggest to make them sound more similar together. So either you're going to unsquashify the basses that are really distorted sounding and gritty to fit more the airy style bass you have, like the less processed bass, the squashy, bubbly ones. Or you're going to turn the squashy, airy basses into really distorted, crunchy grit basses. You're going to do that. I think either way can work. I think the turning the squashy ones into really crunchy basses would be easier personally, because you're really just boosting the low end and then distorting it to get there. But I'm saying this because of tonal balance. Having things sit in more of like the same timbre sounds better than it swapping completely, right? It's almost like going between major and minor scales, right? So major scale is really happy, minor scale is really sad. You wouldn't just go from really, really sad, like the opening scene in Up, to the happiest scene in the world, there has to be a transition. There has to be a reason why. You can do those things. You can transition from major to minor, but there has to be a transition that flows well. So the beginning of Up is kind of weird to even explain that or to bring that up, but like the beginning of Up, it was really happy, and then there's a transition, like a tragedy, and then things slow down. It doesn't go from yay, we're happy to my wife's dead. You know, it doesn't just cut to the next scene like that. There's a transition. So just trying to make it more consistent sounding. I use the term tonal, or what's the term I use? I forget. It's like something palette, sound palette, I think it is what I say a lot. Making your sound palette, like selecting different certain colors that mix well together, is the term I use. I should do a video on that too. This is so many things I should make videos on, dude. I should just be a teacher. Can a university hire me? Anyways, yeah, that's all the stuff I had for your notes. I think this is a pretty solid track. Your mixing is probably the most important thing. I think your sound design is pretty good. So for whatever you're working on, sound design probably not the thing you need to focus on right now, because you already kind of have a sound that you are comfortable with and works well. It's just your mix, really. Your mix is like the thing that's struggling the most. But arrangement wise, good. Except the one build up thing. I think you should just add a build up there. But yeah. Thank you for submitting, Deli. Hope that helped. Hope you enjoyed my feedback first time. Where on Discord can I share my music, please? There's a form on the Patreon. If you look in the Patreon news channel, there's a free submission form on Patreon. You just got to join as a free member. So thank you. Welcome, Deli. Hope you win music. Here's Avada with a whip. Hello, why so cold?
Maybe you should quit. Maybe you should quit.
Ooh, I like that bass. Damn, son. That was sick. You want feedback on pretty much everything, but I don't even have much to say, man.
You should.
Overall, my general thoughts, it does kind of lean more into the generic side. So you're playing it a little safe. So, nothing exactly impressed me. I did like the second part. I think that bass was really cool. Like, I think the second half, the second drop, was way more interesting and had more depth, and definitely perked my ears. The first half, though, does sound like more of a generic rhythm song. So, but even still, it's well mixed. I think the master's pretty good. I think your kick might be a little weak. Like the low end of the kick is not hitting as hard as it could. I just hear the transient, but there's like no mid-low punch, coming through. So that could be up to the sample, I think, more so than the way you mixed it. I think the transient hits really well. Maybe just shop around a different kick a little bit. I want a little bit more of a thump sound, because it's just transient and then low end. It might also just be the sound of the transient. Like the transient's really bright. So I don't know. Shop around for a kick, maybe see if it works better. If it doesn't, just go back to this kick. That's fine. Okay. This is more of the consistent issue that's throughout your song is the bass, the low end, is kind of just too, I was gonna say stagnant. It's too static. It just feels like it's just playing. It's going bam, 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 bam. There's no movement in the tone. It's not doing any pitch bend stuff. In the second half, like I said, I like it more, because there's kind of more movement in the low end. Like, okay, this movement here, this exact movement where it sounds like the bass is getting squashed. It's like getting volume automated into a saturator. And so you hear the top harmonics move. You hear it go wah, 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 wah. Right? The louder it is, the more higher harmonics, the quieter it is, the less harmonics. It sounds more clean. This movement sounds great. I love the sound of this movement. Apply that movement into this part. I promise it'll sound good. I promise it'll sound so good. Nobody has ever done this ever in the world, in the history of everything. You like got it a little bit, I think, because I hear like the bass fade in. But gosh, dude, if you got that down in this section, that'd be great. You could do sub bass pitch bends, like the very end of the note. You could have it roll down or roll up in some way, maybe. That can work, that can't work. I think some kind of movement in this first drop would make the sub way more interesting and not so generic. I think that also contributes to it sounding generic too. Like, if you think of the most boring rhythm song, think like in your mind, picture the most boring rhythm song. What does that sound like? Do you hear the pitch bend going up and down? Probably not. You hear it going on one note. Do you hear the bass like changing tone? Probably not. You're thinking of the same tone repeating over and over. Like, imagine in your head what the most generic rhythm song would be, and don't do that. Be different. If you're conscious of it, then you'll probably change it. But it's just the low end. Those are certain just suggestions I have for the low end. I think it'll be way better. Hello, Maziu. Welcome. Okay, and then this is more of a minor thing. I think the bass tone itself is cool. I just think it could use some EQ, and it's a little harsh on the mid highs. Like, it sounds like it's pretty scooped in the mids. It sounds pretty good, but it's when you can't have some mids for it to take space in, it's got to be more dominant in some other regions. And there's definitely not a lot of high end in the space. Like, it's definitely more towards like the mids and the mid highs. I would say like probably between 400 hertz to like 5k hertz, maybe around that range. So you're kind of more isolated in the mid to mid highs range. You could probably expand it, the high pass you have or something, or the scoop, to give it a little more mid crunch, or like it's a really resonant kind of peak in the mid highs. I think you could turn down so it's not so insanely harsh. And that way, like, it can be a louder sound without being so resonant in more sensitive frequencies, if that makes sense. So those are my thoughts. I think otherwise, really good song. I think you're killing it still. You've come so far. My boy is growing up. So yeah. Thank you for submitting, Avada. Hope that helped. Death Wraith, is hard techno worth a review, or is it strictly dubstep subgenre? I get asked this question so much now. I need to make it clear. We only submit tropical rhythm, and that's it. If you don't submit it, get out. I'm just kidding. Of course, you can submit techno. You can submit any genre you want, as long as you produced it. Because the amount of times I've had a rapper submit something and they're like, over like a beat they didn't even make. What am I supposed to say to that? You sound bad. You should rap better. Like, I can't give feedback to rappers. You should have rhymed with this word instead of that. You're stupid. Does anybody actually like do rap feedback? What does that even look like? Yeah, like, man, you need more passion. You need more passion in your rap, dude. Sorry, man. Another from Delhi. It's a ton on Twitch, really? I should probably like tune into other feedback channels, and they're like, yeah, it could sound better. Oh my gosh, brother, you make drum and bass? Hold up. Yes, Kaizel, we are. Oh my. Like that part, that was sick. That like rolled off bass. Okay. Well, shoot. I need to fill out this more. I was kind of entranced in that. I did have a few notes, but I just didn't write it down. Okay, I think I have the notes I need. First of all, really cool attempt at drum and bass. This gives me like, I don't even know what vibes. I'm not gonna say anything actually, but it's good. I like the arrangement a lot. The arrangement is really strong here. I have a little bit of a opinion on ways to make the arrangement better, but I think you're suffering from pretty much the same feedback I gave on your last song. But in this one, the thing that stood out to me the most was the drums. The drums sound really outdated and too synthy. The trend with drum bass more now is having like organic sounding drums. And if you do go for the synthy kind of it's got like Belgium drum bass, or Belgium jump up or something. If you're going for that synthy sound, you kind of lean into it more. It's like a more distorted kick, a really bright clap, and kind of like these like croaking, like those guonk guonk. Those are really synthy sounding basses. So that kind of fits that genre more. But you're going for like this more liquid-esque type thing. This reminds me of the Caracol Project the most. I always reference the Caracol Project because they are so good at drum bass. I have to pull them up again. I haven't listened to any recent stuff. Yeah, I haven't listened like forever. Yeah, like a Manu. Okay, maybe not that one.
Down is what it did.
No, something like this. Listen to the drums, okay? The drums are really acoustic sounding. They're not really overly bright. And they have a lot of layers. Like those layers, you have like a open hi-hat playing quarter notes, and then you have shakers. It's a layer of shakers and like a closed hi-hat playing 16th notes over each other. And then every kick you have, I don't know what kind of crash cymbal it is, but it's like a splash or something. And then at the end of the phrase, you have like a longer open hi-hat. There's a lot of syncopating drums in this. And they're just a ton of layers. Just listen carefully. Listen to the drums. Isolate the drums in your brain. Think of the low end of the kick, the transit of the kick type of kick it is. Think of the snare. It's more of a rim shot than a like snare hit, your traditional snare hit, because it's hitting the side of the snare drum. But it's also really short, it's organic sounding, and then isolate the cymbals in the top. So listen for all the cymbals that are playing. You can hear them all really clearly. You could like, if your brain was a stem separator, you could separate them all individually and I don't know, do whatever with them. But yeah, and it adds another layer. Like that's like a tambourine layer. Just adds more and more layers on top, and it just sounds great. I'm not even counting the perks that he's using. He's using like little, they're not like hi-hats, but they just sound like a different tone of the snare. So it's like, and then like before every snare, it's like, there's like some kind of Foley happening where it like rumbles before the snare hits. So this is a very like dry mix down he's doing. He usually does more wet stuff. That sounds weird. He's not into water suppression or anything, at least I don't think, but his drops usually sound more full. This is more of like his dry take on things. But it's not dry and empty, it's dry and full. You can have a very wet and empty song. So those are things that are mutually exclusive. This is more like a full wet song. So again, I'm not gonna go through his entire discography, but it's worth listening to that reference and kind of take some ideas on like how he's approaching filling up his mix and the type of drums he's using. In contrast with what the drums are using, they're not only sounding really outdated, they're just not that kind of drums that you would want, I think. So your sound design's pretty close, right? It's really the drums. The drum, I mean, it's drum and bass, dude. It's in the name, drum. I want to make your drums crazy good. Tropical rhythms, so Kygo, but actually fun. I listened to Kygo once on the radio because it like came up and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be advertised like a prescription for 60-year-old women or something. So again, the contrasting basses, same kind of thing. Just try to get them more in like the same sound palette. I said needs more progression because it seems like it's 8 bars of one section and then 8 bars of another. They don't blend that much. I think actually you blended them pretty well here, but they're not progressing. It sounds like that 8-bar loop is really just a 1-bar loop repeated 8 times, if that makes sense. I think there should be really subtle changes in the bass tone, I'm not saying like all of these things, but it could be any of these. These are just recommendations. It'd be changes in the bass tone, the drum rhythm, the background, like you could have vocals come in. It could be different changes in the rhythm, the notes. It could be a change in anything, but as long as it's like progressing towards something, whatever your goal is to make it more intense. Is it to add more melodic elements? Is it to tease a bass coming later in a section? What's your goal? What are you progressing towards? I think you're kind of progressing towards this section, which I think is more like a jump up style. So progress towards that jump up style, add more jump up elements, kind of just experiment and lean towards that. That's what progression is. Like you're starting from one place and you're going to the other. There's a journey between that. So don't just have a 1-bar loop repeat 8 times. Have those 1 bars progress for the next 8 bars you're going to have. When it comes to arrangement, you're really just like dividing between 4 and 8 and 16 and 32. But this little transition I liked a lot. I'll say that. And finally, just add more layers. I already said it when I was showing the other guys' songs, but add more layers to it. It's always a good idea. Everybody does it. Why not? You know, it's not gonna sound bad. It's not gonna sound too layered. There's no real such thing. As long as they mix them well, there's no real such thing of layering. The only downside is that your CPU and your computer's not gonna like it. So thank you for some mountain. Enjoyable. Hope you enjoyed that. Next up we got Kaisel, and then we'll be going on to the free submissions. I'm such a sucker for organs, dude. Screw you, man. Oh, fuck. Agony. That was clean, bro. Oh my goodness. I think you're good at like having a really unique sound. It sounds like a mix between like it sounds like there's like ISO EXO elements in this. Like it's got the really pingy snare and like a really scooped mids with an 808. It sounds great. I just love your arrangements in this. Dynamic. You're like really amping up like the it's not the downbeat, but like the kick after the snare, you're just like everything's impacting at that moment. So I think you're kind of going for like a metal element, I guess. Trap producer making death step or something. I think you're trying to go for like a metal element. You should keep practicing doing metal stuff so you can kind of get the feeling for the way they do mix sounds. That's just, admittedly, I try to make metal. It's harder than you think. Because it's such a different, at least it's hard as like a EDM producer because you don't mix with the same mentality as like someone who makes metal. So in this one, for example, your kick is too loud in the metal section. But as a EDM producer, you're used to that. You're thinking, my kick should be the loudest element. Your snare should be the loudest element. But that's not true for other genres. Like EDM is very drum centric. Like everything's about the drums, what the drums are doing, what the drums doing, and the way they're mixed. But in metal, the kick is, you can barely even perceive the kick. Like you'll hear the transient and like a little bit of a rumble in the low end, but it is like not nearly as loud as EDM. Same thing with the snare. The snare is really just like, if you listen to a metal song, the snare is not that pronounced. Like it's just like a transient and you can hear the reverb maybe, but that's really it. And okay, this is my harsh and hot take. I think people who mix metal are not good at mixing. I think they're pretty bad. I think almost every person that does mixing and metal are pretty bad, but they got so used to it that it's just how the sound is. I think good mixing for metal is like phase one. Phase one came from metal. He made dubstep and then he started mixing metal again. His mixdowns are so clean when he makes metal. You have no idea. They sound so clean and perfect. I listened to Lorna Shore. Okay, I'm doing a mix of Lorna Shore. And oh my gosh, it sounds bad. What's the one I'm doing? I can't remember what the song is. Oh my gosh, it's like their 8-minute song or some kind of freaking thing. I'll look it up real quick. It's in my downloads probably. Lorna Shore. Oh, Prison of Flesh. That one. Dude, the low end is so messy and rumbly. The guitars are mixed terribly. The drums are just a mess. The only thing that's clear is his voice, and it is so bad. I feel, I don't know. I should stop talking about it, but like their mixing standards are terrible. Still though, I think your kick is just too loud in this. Metal isn't a drum focused thing, like I said, so they don't really care about how their drums sound that much as long as it's there. You know, that's kind of what I'm getting at. They don't really care about how it sounds. They care about the vocals, for the most part. So, just turn down the kick a little bit. I think your guitars are pretty messy. Also, I don't hear a bass in there, like a bass guitar. I think that's pretty fundamental to having a good metal track. I think our cymbals are at a pretty good spot. And also add a fill before the section, please. Everything here is good. Good. I like everything here. I think I suggested like adding a kick on the snare. I think it's kind of overpowering the snare in this one. I can't remember if I said that or not. I think it sounds almost good. I want the snare to punch out more, like the body of it. I want to hear the transient and like the mids of it. I mostly just hear the kick right now. Yeah, literally just like it's a minute thing. Yeah, like right there, that sounds really good. It sounds like different. I don't know. Like the tone in the snare is different. I like that part. Should add some reverb to that snare or that rim shot. It's like super dry. That clap could use a little bit less mids, just so it fits with the other drum elements, because your snare is really scooped, and so I think it would make sense if your clap was a little bit more scooped too, like a little bit less mids. But yeah. The last thing was the sub fundamental could be louder. This is just a prevalent thing throughout the entire song where the sub is. Like, I think your sub just could be louder in this section, just at all. Like in this section, it's more distorted. I kind of get it. So it sticks out more, but the sub should just be simply louder. I think it's a pretty easy thing to adjust. Of course, release it when you see fit. You don't have to wait for my approval for everything. Just make a next song. I think you can make those adjustments pretty easily though. Like literally you can do all the things I mentioned in like 30 minutes to an hour, and then it'll be done. So some advice, just release it to wherever you want and then get the next one. So yeah, thank you for submitting, Kaisel. Sick stuff. Awesome. Now we're on to free submissions. So first up we have Why So Cold. You are welcome, Kaisel. Why So Cold? Here we go.
Let's go.
Drop it like it's like it's drop it like it's
Let's go.
like it's drop it like it's drop it like it's
Let's go.
drop it like it's like it's drop it like it's
Let's go.
like it's drop it like it's drop it like it's
Nice. I think I can stop there. Yeah. Okay. First impressions, general thoughts. The vocals. There's one vocal that kind of just annoyed me.
drop it like it's
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, that one. Like I actually shivered when I heard that, and it was not like a good shiver. It was like a I don't like that. That like it felt icky. I don't like that one. The other ones I think are fine. Actually, one of them isn't fine because it's overused. But that one was, I was like, I don't know if you guys agree or not. It just made me feel weird. That's just my thought.
drop it
I think it's pretty good as like a trap song. I think you have a lot of good elements. The boing, yeah, the fucking, oh, I didn't mean to swear. Sorry. The bit crush sound, I think it's pretty good. I like a lot of this. So yeah, let's go through the notes. The bass could have more sub. When the bass hits, I don't hear the low tone. I hear like the crunchiness. I think your bass tone sounds good. Like it sounds crunchy, it's full, it's thick. Didn't process it a lot, which I think is kind of a good thing. But again, still, your sub bass is not that present. So the really low, like in your chest feeling is just not there. I just hear the overtones. I don't hear the sub. So boost the sub in some way. If this sound is just entirely made in Serum, like it's all just one synth making this entire sound, add a dedicated sub that goes straight to the effects chain. If you're getting this effect through like the mixer in some way, just add a separate synth that has its own sub and then try to mix it in to taste. Yeah, it's just the sub is not there, like at all. Okay, the overused vocal. Dude, the drop it like it's hot vocal is so overused. It's kind of dying off now, but like a year to 2 years ago, maybe almost like 3 years ago, what would that be, like 2022, 2023, 2024? In that era, it was used in like every song. And the person who originally made that vocal, that song, was causing drama with people because the only reason people had that vocal was by getting the stems to the original. And you had to buy those stems to get that vocal. But then I think it's Subfiltronic, right? He made that song. But then people started just cutting it out, and the drama was that he was trying to keep people from, you know, stealing his vocal samples, but it got just so out of control, I guess, that everybody's using it. So just putting it out there, it is kind of controversial to use it for that reason. But also, you shouldn't use that vocal for the sake of it's overused. People are going to recognize that vocal and be like, yeah. Unless if it's a Subfiltronic remix or bootleg, probably don't use that vocal. But that's my main thought on that. The other thing I think is kind of weird in your mix, you have sidechain in there, but it sounds like you're doing like this gross beat sidechain where it only hits on the 1 or 3, like the boom, ksh, boom, ksh, but the kick is not playing that pattern. So when the kick is playing like some kind of syncopation or offbeat note, the sidechain is not triggered, so it just sounds like a weird thump and it fucks up the low end. Yeah, like the kick is... I hate this feature in SoundCloud where you like drag on the play button and it opens this thing. I hate that. Why would they add that? It's so stupid. Anyways, the kick is being sidechained in these like offbeat kick hits. Like it's just not being sidechained. And so yeah, the kick playing, it's messing with the low end. It just makes everything messy. It feels weird. So sidechain that, please.
Let's go.
Also, now that I'm listening through it through again, you could add more processing onto the vocals and make them feel wider and more intense because they just sound kind of dry. Like that hot vocal is dry AF. There's no reverb or delay or anything. I just can't hear it. It's probably just so... The reverb is probably just so long, like I can't tell that it's being reverbed. It should be a shorter reverb, maybe. Yeah, it makes me think you have like a decay of like 12 seconds on the vocal and it's like mixed really quietly. Like your reverb should be a lot shorter, around like 3 seconds of decay, I think would be better. But I don't know. Those are my thoughts on it. Thought your mix sounds pretty decent. You just are neglecting your sub, and your kick needs to be sidechained, please. Thank you. But pretty solid. Thank you for submitting. Hope that helps. Moving on to the next submission. We got Triboot. What is up, Triboot?
Yo, it's Virus Syndicate.
Hello, Widalin. You can submit in the free channel whenever you want.
Yo, coming in through the back door. Ain't got all my people screaming. Beyond the corner, feature easy on the scene, but I'm feeling. Leaving a nest, leaving a hearse. In for the keys and peas and the curse. Dealing back to the bone. Shooting the music, just one move like. It's free back to the rhythm. Some bass on the rhythm. Why not back to the rhythm? How I like a rhythm. Call it in.
You're welcome, Why So Cold?
Are you about it? cause I'm about it. Are you about it? Flight mode just like hang glide till I come down on them like landslide. Doing it big from LA to Shanghai. I'ma work out till I'm almost. I'ma go dark. Ain't got all my people screaming. Be on a feature, easy, sit on the scene, got a feeling. Needing a nurse, leaving a hearse. In for the G's and P's and the feeling. Back to the bone, trying the music, one like flight mode just like hang glide till I come down on them like landslide. Doing it big from LA to Shanghai. I'ma work out till I'm almost dead. I'ma go sick, get hype like Banzai. Them man a sound dry just like cat's eye. Made this jam and bang like a landmine. Go sick till I flatline. Dark, ain't got all my people screaming. Be on a feature, easy, sit on the scene, got a feeling. Ayo, trust me, this one's free. Dodge and Foxy came with a bomb. I'm a beast on the beat, don't push me. You tryna write that piece up? I'm looking at 10 different countries, thinking what can't they get along? Turn up the music, ring get along.
There's no way.
Music, ring get along. Let's go, 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 go. Long, let's 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 go, 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 go.
There's no way I hit the note. I am a bass guru. I am the bass genius. It is playing G sharp. That's what the note's settling on. That's crazy high. Why is the sub playing G sharp? Brother, you need to fix that. The Charlie Puth of EDM. I wish I was pitch perfect. That would help my life so much. But dude, that sub is way too high. The standard for like sub basses is like E, and I'm a little edgy, so I go D sharp because I hate the letter E. It's like my least favorite letter in the alphabet. The standard used to be F. Like in 2015, like everybody made music in F minor. Let's make the song in F minor. No one has ever made a bass song in G sharp. What are we doing? What are we doing actually? Why are we making a song in G sharp? It should be way lower. No one's gonna fuck with this. I keep swearing. I'm gonna get demonetized and castrated and whatever bad things they're gonna do to me, they're gonna do. I sometimes get a little spicy with the C sharp. Yeah, some people do C sharp. You can still hear the bass. I think people tend to go for a lower note than a high note like this. That's the most obvious thing I hear is the bass is too high. If you pitch this song down literally like 4 semitones, it would be so much better. But holy, you're gonna make this guy transpose the whole song? Yeah, that's literally what I just said, is turn the entire thing down. He read my mind. Yeah, dude, it is too high. No one makes music in G sharp. Absolutely no one. So turn that down, please. Thank you. Okay, on the other notes, because I got carried away with that. The bass in the intro is a little nitpick, but I think it sounds really goofy here. Like, why is the bass just playing on this? There's nothing around it. It's just like I think if you like filtered it and made it sound like it was like a phone speaker or a laptop speaker kind of thing, I think it would sound cooler. I'm gonna check my bass note right now. You scared me.
Yeah, coming in through the back door. Ain't got my people screaming.
Okay, minor sound design thing. I didn't really have much to say on your sound design other than like it needs more variation. But the format is really high. Like I hear a little goblin guy in my ear, and it's going. That is a really high format, and that might be in part to your song just being that high pitch, but a high format never sounds good when it's like that high. Like it sounds like it's getting in the goofy space. So It sounds like it could also be like a wavetable. Like maybe the wavetable you're using has a really high formant. If it does, switch it out. If you are adding a filter that's causing that, turn the cutoff down because it sounds weird. Your bass right now is a goblin going. That's what it sounds like. So yeah, just try to fix that. Another thing, I literally, hello? I like smacked my desk and started playing. That was weird. I literally mentioned this in a song submitted like a while ago, like 20 minutes, 3 minutes ago. Your sub has no movement. It is just on and then changing to, it's like alternating between G sharp and G. It's going G, G sharp, G sharp, G sharp. It's just on. It's a static sub. It's doing nothing. Give it some movement. Give it some pitch movement, something like that, or like it pitches down, or automate the volume. If you're in Serum, like make it have a curve, or it gets louder at the start or get louder at the end, something. I just want to hear some movement. I want to hear the bass do something because it's boring right now. It is really, really boring of a sub bass. And it makes your actual top layer bass sound even goofier. Like you're just disrespecting that top layer bass with the sub. That's mostly what I have. I think your mixing is pretty decent. Your sub bass could be a little too loud for right now. But just see how it sounds when you pitch the entire song down and then evaluate it. Your bass might also, just like in general, your bass group could also be too scooped. I think that's what I'm hearing, is like it's kind of too scooped at like 300 hertz. So in that area, you want to have a little bit of that space so it feels full and, you know, angry. Yeah, but otherwise, I don't have much else to say about this. It's pretty good. I think people would vibe to this. It's a remix of a song, I imagine. Yeah, Virus Syndicate. Okay, next up we have Neo Chrono. Also, thank you for submitting. I don't know if I said that. Neo Crow. Oh no. Oh. Crow. Oh no. Oh.
No, I'm nowhere near done. You're humming my songs, bitch, it's getting so slow. Take a chance and tell them what's so hard about your life. If it wasn't for these songs, I bet there'd be no what's to mine.
Dude, I'm just thinking of this baby singing this. Oh my gosh. I just thinking about it. That baby is the singer. That baby is the singer, bro.
Taking my tea, blue light in my eyes. No, I got the whole world watching me blink twice. Say it soft, say it loud, say it wrong all night. Say
It's
it
the vibe.
in the hallway, just go silence bites. Camera 6 a.m. Yeah, I'm like, we're back in the cam. Yeah, spin like fake, not my plan. Yeah, said it once back again. Yeah, change the time, I'm fine. Yeah, oh, go like all time. Yeah, so you want to fight every time. Cause I'm lying, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I'm lying, yeah. Yeah. Say it soft, say it loud, say it wrong all night.
I like the sauce. my. Hollis meets Boss Baby. What are you on about? The Boss Baby. Oh my goodness, dude. That was great. I really have no feedback. Like, honestly, that was really good. The only thing that I felt is that the flow in this first drop was like pretty fast for what the whole other song was.
Camera 6 a.m. Yeah, I think in my tea, blue light in my eyes. No, like
Like the flow here in this intro is relatively slow. Like it's like ba-da-da-da-da-da, boom, boom, boom. Like it kind of makes you feel like more quarter note than just you know, like really intense, fast kind of thing. So I feel like you could just have it be quarter note maybe, or you could have like quarter note with some 16 note syncopation or something like that. But it just feels like a really fast tempo for everything else. But that is more of like a personal feeling. I feel like it was just a little too fast, so take it with some salt. Oh wait, yeah, your sound design's great. That was 149. I was thinking 150. That kind of blew my mind. I'm so used to 140 Dubatep. Oh, fuck. Okay. Yeah, I have no feedback for this. This is really good. Drums are clean, bass is clean, sound design is peak. Mastering good. Yeah, just very solid. Thank you for submitting, Neochrono, and flexing to everybody that you are just the best to ever exist, dude. Okay, let's see. You're welcome. All right, we have Skip. I don't even know who this is.
He is a hustler, he's no good at all. He is a loser, he's a bum, 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 bum. He lies, he bluffs, he's unreliable. He is a sucker with a gun, 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 gun. I know you told me I should stay away. I know you said he's just a dog or stray. He's a bad boy with a tainted heart. And even I know this ain't smart. But mama, I'm in love with a criminal. And this type of love isn't rational, it's physical. Mama, please don't cry, I will be alone. Always on the side, I just can't deny. But mama, I'm in love with a criminal. And this type of love isn't rational, it's physical. Mama, please don't cry, I will be alright. Always on the side, I just can't deny. Never mind.
pussy.
I love the guy. He is a villain by the devil's law. He is a killer just for fun, 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 fun. The man's a snitch and unpredictable. He's got no conscience, he got none, 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 none. Oh, I know, should let go, but no. 'Cause he's a rapper with a tainted heart. And even I know this ain't smart. Cause mama, I'm in love with a criminal. And this type of love isn't rational, it's physical. Mama, please don't cry, I will be alright. I'll reserve a side, I just can't deny. Love the guy. Mama, I'm in love with a criminal. And this type of love isn't rational, it's physical. Mama, please don't cry, I will be alright. I'll reserve a side, I just can't
Voilà, mais
deny.
c'était sûr en fait.
What?
Physical.
Je suis Spider-Man, fils de pute.
Physical. I love the guy.
Okay. Pretty cool. Interesting to remix a Britney Spears song. It's not really people's thing to remix those songs in the rhythm, but it can work. People just kind of remix the other rhythm producer songs because it's like super easy. So they get a little harder for yourself. Okay, so feedback going on the list. You have high pass drums.
He is a hustler, he's no good at all. He is a loser, he's a bum, bum, bum.
You hear it kind of in the background.
He's unreliable. He is a
They don't even need to be there. Why are they there? Just honestly delete those. You don't need those at all.
go with a gun, 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 gun. Hard. And even I know this ain't smart. But mama, I'm in love with a criminal. And this
I think your little flute thing is okay. It kind of just sounds cheesy, like the actual instrument itself. If there's some way that you can make it sound more realistic and dynamic, or lean into the synthy parts of it, I think it would sound better. You could just like layer some other synths on top, maybe.
isn't rational. But mama, I'm in love with a criminal.
I think your arrangement is pretty good. But the big thing is your bass notes on this melody are just doing whatever they want. They're playing whatever notes they want and they don't care. They don't care about how you feel or what you want. They're going to do what they want.
Mama, I'm in love with a criminal. Can't deny.
These bass notes just change too fast. I think you probably have some of the right notes, but they just change too fast for it to settle. You need to let the bass note settle in more. A bass note is not changing every half bar or every quarter bar. It's gonna be playing like one bar at a time. Like chords don't change that much. In the original song, the chords, I guarantee the chords do not change that frequently. So it's number one mistake you're making. Make the basses just sit on the same note for longer.
bien se passer.
Yeah, what is that vocal?
T'inquiète pas, ça va bien se passer.
I'm like, why? What is that doing?
Ne t'inquiète pas, ça va bien se passer.
I just don't understand why that's there.
I love the game.
It's an Easter egg? I don't even know what's being said. Inside jokes are not good in music.
He is a demon by the devil's law. He is a killer just for fun, 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 fun.
Also, it needs to sound good. Like, it just sounds like a random vocal is thrown in there.
He's a snitch and unpredictable. He's got no conscience, he got none, 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 none. Oh, I know, should let go, but no. 'Cause he's a bad boy with a tainted heart. And even I know this ain't smart.
I don't think the vocal needs OGT. I think it's okay. Okay, this second drop, that sustained bass, you have a progression with your main bass that's changing with the notes. You're trying to make it change with the notes, but then sustain comes and it's like bang gang meh, bang gang meh, bang gang meh. Like, it sounds really weird. You should have that sustain changing with the bass notes so they sound like they're playing the same progression. Also, you're making it dissonant. Like, the chord's not going to sit on the root note forever. If it goes on the 2 or the 3 or 6, it's going to sound really, really weird. It's going to sound like it's dissonant.
Physical.
Also, like, your basses are really quiet. Your drums are loud and punchy, but your basses are really quiet. I think it's kind of my other suggestion is to boost the master more. The master is really, really weak, and everything is like too dynamic. You're trying to make a really intense drop, but everything is not intense. Your drums are doing the most, but your basses just aren't there. They aren't bringing that intensity to the song. So that's all the feedback I really have for you. So thank you for submitting. Huge dub. All right, we have Mazu. Nice. Okay. Where to start, man? Very interesting doing this like is this hardstyle or I think also is like the gonk kind of kick, right? Hard dance? Is this hard dance? I think it's a more hard dance. The sidechain, I'll go down all the notes. My initial thoughts are that everything's kind of too distorted. And so everything's fighting for space and your mids are pretty messy. Excuse me. So yeah, the sidechain could be longer. It's very short and it's not leaving enough room for the low and the kick to really settle in. Your mids, like I said, are very abundant in the song. You have a lot of elements that have a lot of mids. You should cut some mids from some things, excuse me, to let other things come through more. So, for example, a lead, usually like a lead vocal, a lead melody will sit in the mids to mid highs, maybe, but they mostly sit in the mids. Your chords are also very mid heavy, and all the notes are around the mids. If you play both of them at the same time, you either need to turn down your chords, so the lead melody, the thing that is more important than your chords, has priority over the mix and it's louder and more perceptible, or you can cut the mids of the chords so that the high end has more intensity with the chords, but where the melody really matters, where you don't want the chords to overpower the melody, that's where the chords are cut to let the melody, the mids in the melody to pull through more. You're giving priority to certain instruments in your frequency. So that also goes for your bass too. Your bass, you have a very crunchy, full spectrum bass. Scoop out the mids so the mids are more clear. That way your melody, any melody you have, or also the chords can come through more. That's a pretty basic thing to apply to mixing. That applies for pretty much everything. The high end, a little less so because the high end can have a lot of frequencies clashing and it'll still sound good. The low end is, I think you would know this just from experience, the low end is really never that. If you have two instruments playing at the same time, the low end, they're usually clashing in a really bad way. Your master is really clipped, I think. It's overly distorted. So much so that when the kick is low passed, I can hear the kick clipping, which should never happen. When you low pass an instrument, you're trying to lower the energy, the intensity of the song. Because the kick drives the song. This is a hard dance song. I don't know why my senses are so messed up right now. I need to like do something about it. Oh, gosh. Making a hard dance song where the drums are the foundation of it. If you low pass the drums, it's gonna be less intense. I consider it clipping, which means you have your song pushed really loud. Even when the song is low pass and low energy, it's still clipping to the master, which means full volume. That's really a bad sign. So you're failing at dynamics in your song. Just turn the entire song down. The only parts that you want to be clipping into your master is like the drop. And the only things you want to be clipping are the transients of the kick or transients of some other drums. You shouldn't really be clipping that much. If you want to push it more, get a limiter that is transparent to push it further, but you're not going to only use a clipper, and the clipper should not be distorting your song this much. I think your writing is pretty good, though. Can I clip the main bass? You should avoid it more times than not. Ideally, you would want to have a bass bus. So a mixer channel where all your bass instruments can converge into one mix channel, and then you can use a slider or add whatever effects to it. You can clip it in like a bus or clip it in its own channel, but it shouldn't really be hitting the master. You really only want to be clipping the top transients. Like imagine like a haircut, right? Like if you're getting a flat top, something like that, just so you can imagine it easier. A flat top, you're gonna have some peaks in there before you cut the hair. You want to be flat. So you're kind of just trimming off the top edges. You don't want to be completely cut because it's gonna look like the surface of a countertop. So you're just kind of trimming the highest points, you know, and then that way it's easier for your limiter. The limiter that is transparent, it has like a higher attack release, has some look ahead on it, so you know it doesn't sound so clipped. That way the transients don't mess up the limiter. Your limiter is based off of the input of sound. If you shave off the really intense peaks, it's going to make it easier for your limiter to digest, and therefore your song won't be sounding really inconsistent, and it'll even be louder if you do that. And for how much you talked about OTT, I think you are overusing it in this song. Okay, in this off bass thing, I said it should be more staccato. That's easier explained than just on text. So the bass, what I mean by staccato is it needs to sound plucky. Like you have it kind of fading in like there's an LFO. It's going like ya 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 ya. It should be like if that makes any sense. I know I'm making silly mouth sounds, ha ha ha, but it should be like a pluck, because this is a very rhythmically intense genre of music. And you also have a lot of other instruments around that are playing really sharp transients and really sharp plucky notes. So make it staccato. You can do that. It's easy. And everything has too much distortion. That's just exactly how it sounds. Everything has too much distortion. Lay back on the distortion a little bit, and you'll be fine. So, yar. The kick is gonna kill the pluckiness with the sidechain anyways. Only if it's on the kick. If it's on the offbeat, like in this part, you will definitely hear the pluckiness. But I know what you mean. Anyways, thank you for submitting, Maziu. And last song before we end the stream is Wydelin. Also, check out my Patreon, guys. I never promote my Patreon until the end of the stream, which has like no one in it. But I do production content, dude. I teach you how to be good at music. Maybe, I think. Oh, Rage. Rage, I didn't even see your submission till just now. I'm really sorry. I'll review yours after this one. part's pretty harsh. Darn. That's pretty good. I like that. I like the intro. Satisfying. Drums are good. I think your kick has too long sidechain. It sounds like whenever it hits, like the entire song ducks, and there's nothing. With that too, you shouldn't be sidechaining absolutely everything. There should be some things that are left unsidechained, and usually that's like vocals or things that are important. I think a caveat is cymbals. Cymbals are part of the drums, so it doesn't necessarily make sense for them to be sidechained, but at the same time, you don't want them to make your transient messy or just not hit as hard. So there's a balance you need to have. What I do to get your cymbals to sound good mixed with your kick but not sidechain them is to just cut the transients. Like it's a very, very tiny cut the transients. It's like basically sidechain on the cymbals, but the sidechain is so short and small that you can't really hear it that well. You just kind of hear that the kick transient comes through more. That's really what it does. So that's my technique I use. You should implement that so it sounds more full and the kick doesn't sound like it's dragging everything down in the mix. Your bass. Okay, so in this, your sub bass is a Reese. So what is a Reese? Reese happens when you have a bunch of basses, basically like a bunch of saws, sine waves, whatever. It could be up to 2 voices or 16. If you're using Serum, it's definitely either of those. But the whole point of a Reese is that it is detuned. So each of the voices are detuned up or detuned down. And when you have it in the lower register of a song, like a really low sub frequency, all those frequencies are going to phase cancel each other. And that's where you get that Reese movement from, right? You're doing that intentionally to get some unique movement and some wideness. The problem is that a Reese bass movement with more unison, with more voices, you can't really tell it's doing any rhythms or anything. It just kind of sounds like a really warm, wide low end. But if you're doing 2 voices where you get that iconic like sound, that Reese movement, it's not going to be in the same rhythm as your entire song. Like it's going to play its own rhythm, and that rhythm will change no matter what note you play. Like if you go to higher note, it's going to play faster. If you go to lower note, it's going to play slower. That's just how a Reese bass is. So it's kind of hard to make a Reese bass sound good with other rhythmic elements. If you hear other songs that use a Reese bass, they have them on the end of phrases because they aren't easy to make work in a rhythmic environment. They're in the end of phrases and they're usually by themselves, not with any other layers. In this song, you have a bunch of layers on top of each other. They're all playing different rhythms, elements, things like that. So it doesn't work in this context. What you need to do is either increase the unison where the rhythm isn't perceptible. You can't hear the thing going on, the phase cancellation playing a rhythm. Increase the unison so it's not obvious, or replace the low end of the sub with a clean sub that is static. In that one, you can just have be a regular saw with a low pass, maybe. It can be anything you want as long as it doesn't have any unison on the low end. And then you can mix them together or whatever, as you please. So that's like the biggest thing in this thing. If you do like the movement, you could control it with an LFO. So a cool trick that I find really helpful is to make a respace like you would, right? You would have like 2 unison on it. The whole point of it is 2 unison. They're both different pitches, so then they phase cancel at whatever rate. It's usually they'll play the frequency that is separating them. So if one voice is 5 hertz above the other one, and the other voice is 5 hertz below, that makes for a total of 10 hertz of a difference. So that means your bass is going to oscillate at 10 hertz. So that's the rhythm. So how do we mock that in and control it? Well, the whole point is that it's phase canceling. So phase cancel means that it's going to duck itself. So if you just get a LFO and you turn, this is gonna sound crazy. If you just simply turn down the sub at a LFO rate, that is, you're basically doing phase cancellation. And then you can pitch it up and down, and you'll still have the same LFO. And you can do some cool stuff, like you could key track it going up and then make the LFO go faster at like an exact tempo. Like you could have it play 8th notes if you go higher, or 16th notes if you go higher, something like that. But that is how you get that resound without have it playing random rhythms. I do that all the time, actually. I do it so often, it's scary. So try that, see if that helps. I guarantee it'll work. Do it. The last thing I had to say was that your master is really distorted. I can hear it when the low end comes in. A lot of times it crushes everything else. Like I can hear the distortion on the high end when the low end comes in. And I also hear it on the kick. So that means your master is being pushed too hard. Too much low end is coming into the mix, into the limiter you have. So I think a solution with that would be to turn down your sub a little bit, just a little bit, not too much, and also turn down your limiter a little bit so there's more room. You're making a drum bass song. Drum bass songs are going to be the loudest thing in the world, so it's okay if they have some dynamics. They're not going to be as loud as dubstep. They're not going to be as loud as hardstyle. Don't ruin your song's mixdown for loudness. I think everything else was really good though. You just have some things to polish at the mixdown. But yeah, thank you for submitting. Hope that helps. And this is the last one for the stream. So we have Rage. I'm so sorry that I forgot your submission. Also, check out my Patreon, Widolin. I do a lot of fun stuff. What is this? What? Why can't I play the end of it? What? I'm so confused. Rage, what is happening here? You look like a nerd. I know I am. Dude, what is this? Why is it cutting off? Hello? Yes, I do. I think I have a command for it. No, I probably don't. Oh, yes I do. How do you push your loudness? I think you delete the track on the PC while uploading. Shoot, dude. Yeah, I guess you can send it on Discord. We'll just pretend that this is what we're playing. Just put in like the music channel, I guess. How do you push loudness? So when you're pushing things into a limiter, your limiter actually prioritizes frequencies more than others, and it's kind of more like a linear or exponential curve, I guess, more so. Things that are in the low end are prioritized way more. So if you have something in the low end and something in the high end, like the same volume, your low end is going to absolutely demolish the high end if you start pushing it. So if you want something like loudness, like you just mentioned, LUFS, okay? LUFS are not a measurement that you should care that much about, honestly. It's about human hearing. Like, it's basically saying how sensitive your song is to the human ear. LUFS is like biasing frequencies that are more sensitive to human ears. That usually just means high end, right? You're not comfortable listening to a lot of high end, but a lot of low end you can take. A lot of low end doesn't bother you. You probably seen like the Fletcher-Munson curve, right? The Fletcher-Munson curve is a curve that shows like how certain frequencies are more sensitive to the human ear than others. So if you blast a frequency at 3.4K hertz, which is the more sensitive area of the ear, you're going to feel pain. But if you measure it in LUFS, it's going to sound loud. So it's going to say, oh my gosh, you have plus 50 LUFS on this frequency, but it doesn't sound good. Doesn't mean it sounds good, okay? If you want loudness, turn down the sub, because the sub will be more dominant. Like I said, the low end part of the frequencies are more dominant and they will take over your mix most of the time. So, but also, you don't want everything too loud to where it hurts to hear. So you need to balance it. So you want a clean sub that is loud enough for it to feel comfortable, but you want it loud enough to where it sounds intense and awesome, kind of. How do you spell the name of that curve? Fletcher-Munson, Fletcher, and then Munson, Munson. Yeah. But don't rely on LUFS a lot. Those are like one of the most popular the most popular bad things, like bad mixing advice I see. I submitted on the feedback chat in Patreon. Oh, there is a form that you're supposed to fill out. I don't do feedback in the chat. I should probably change that, because it's that channel, that feedback channel on Patreon, that's like a chat. That's for like recommendations on what to do on Patreon. It's not for songs. I wish there was a way I could like show it's not for that, but I should probably just rename it, honestly, to like Patreon or like creator feedback. I don't know, but I guess I'll do yours too. Everybody's getting confused, and including me. Okay, Rage. Let's listen to yours. I like the static sound. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna stop it there. Sorry, that sounded so mean. I'm gonna stop there. I like a lot of the song. I don't have much to say about the arrangement, but oh my goodness, the mix is so freaking loud. Actually, I take that back. Not the mix, it's the bass that's so loud. The mix is pretty good actually. Like the kick hits, the kick clap hits. I can somehow hear your cymbals, which I think is crazy. I don't know how you made your bass that loud, but I can hear your little China cymbal or something in the background. That's weird. You're a little freak for getting that out. But my main complaint is it is too much distortion. Your sub bass sounds good. Your highs sound good. It's just too crunchy. It is too crunchy. I know people are doing it because it's a trend. But the entire song is too much of it. It's too much a good thing is bad, okay? I like crunchy stuff. I love crunchy stuff. I love chips and salsa. I love guacamole, but it's not the only thing I want to eat. Too much a good thing is bad. I think if you're using something like bias distortion or really anything that makes it crunchy, I guess like bias is like the only thing. Distortion just in general. You need to have some clean parts that aren't distorted to really emphasize the distortion that you want to have. I wouldn't say maybe not automating the drive of distortion, but instead you could automate like the low end. You could have the low end get louder and get quieter to kind of emphasize the rhythm. Just like the thing I mentioned with the respace, right? Like phase canceling. If you duck the sub where you want there to be a rhythm, like if you want a note to play like a womp sound, just like imagine like a triangle curve, do the opposite, do an inverse of a triangle curve on the sub so that the high ends and the mids kind of take over and be more dominant. Some kind of movement would help it a lot too, but also I just think you should just distort this less. The bass being sorted does ruin it for me, but I still like the crunchy tone. The crunchy tone's good. Distort it less. That's pretty much the only thing. Aside from that, I think it was pretty well done. I think your master was pretty good. Your mix, aside from like all the distortion, was pretty decent. Yeah, pretty solid song. I like it. So thank you for submitting. I don't know what you did on your SoundCloud to make it gray out. Like this is like what something does when it's like the Go Plus, the SoundCloud Go Plus. It does that? And you're not, how do you even get SoundCloud Go? Like, you know what I mean? Like it grays out like the rest of the song, gives you like a 30-second preview. I don't know how you did that. You did something crazy. Let's just say that. And then, okay, the actual last feedback I'll give, because I feel so bad, will be Death Rave, because he submitted. Dang, I would get to yours, but I closed submissions a while ago. And I just missed 2 people who already submitted. But you can check me out next week. I'll do another one. I do it weekly. You guys should check out my Patreon. I do a lot of good educational content. Death Rave.
Death Rave.
Death Rave. I'm reviewing your song right now. Yes, it's a cross-platform stream. I'm on YouTube and Twitch.
Death Rave.
The guy Death Rave submitted quite a while ago, and he's been in the wrong chat. Okay, I think I'll stop there. Immediately, the reason why your song doesn't sound this full is because it is super mono. Like, it sounds like this entire song was coming out of one speaker. Crazy alert. You have 2 ears. You don't have 1 ear, you have 2. That means you can hear in stereo. That means you need 2 speakers, so things can come out of the left and right speaker. If they're playing the same exact signal, that makes it mono. Add some things like reverb, dimension expanders. You can even have ping pong delays. You can pan things. A trick that people do a lot is they take their hi-hats, it plays like a 16th note pattern, alternate the hi-hats to where it is panning to the left and the right. So each other one, pan left, pan right, pan left, pan right. That makes a really wide stereo field and makes it feel like it's really big and surrounding you. Another thing, a lot of your synths don't have a lot of high end, and they are also not stereo. Like, everything is mono. I can't stress that enough. Please focus on making things stereo and feeling wide. The most neglected part of mixdowns are wideness. No one ever talks about wideness because no one understands it, and they're all chuds and they watch Dripment. Don't tell anyone I said that. Your stereo field is amazing. Please utilize it. Please, it is free real estate. You have 2 speakers. Please, you have free real estate. Left and right speaker, please. Okay. Yeah, and still, just like nothing has high end, the only thing that has high end is your cymbals. If you just added more high end to your synths and stuff, and also just like simply made them louder, like it could be louder. Your sub is literally clipping. What is turning up your high end gonna do? It's gonna not really do much. Yeah, the sampler is mono. I'll add some subtle stereo in post through stems. Oh yeah, you said that everything was made in like a sampler. That kind of sucks. But also, one thing you could do is just like add a. I don't know if it's it would help that much, but if you do like 2 takes and pan 1 take to the left and pan 1 take to the right, that could add some nice stereo. But I don't know if it would be those signals would be different enough for it to make a difference. But you should definitely add something to give it more stereo. That's your biggest problem with this. And also high end. But yeah, thank you guys for submitting. This is kind of the end of the stream. Everybody's kind of just left because I did everybody's tracks. But yeah, I do this every week, 5 p.m. EST. Also, if you want to make it for next stream and get your song reviewed first, check out my Patreon. I do some tiers for submitting music. I also do production content. I do videos on Serum. I do tutorials. I also do monthly sample packs. So if you guys like cool samples that sound good and you like, then you can come here. You can also request samples and tutorials if you like a cool sound from a song. You can ask me to recreate it, and I'll recreate it, and I'll give you the preset. I'll give you anything that I've made. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week.